All right, everyone. So we're going to take a look at the base plate model. There's a lot going on in this technical drawing. Really, all we are creating is a rectangle that has rounded edges and is extruded that has 4 different holes in it. Those holes are placed along a center line. So all of these numbers on here tell us the whole information and give us all the detail that we need in order to be able to work on our objects. So that's on the front. This is actually the back or the bottom of the base plate. So you can see there's 4 smaller holes here. So we are going to work on creating this shape. The great news is the first shape is just a rectangle. That's all it is really with rounded corners. So we're going to go ahead and create a new sketch on that front surface. I'm going to go ahead and grab my rectangle tool. I am going to dimension this to the overall size of 11 by 4. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, change this to 11, change this to 4. Okay, now obviously that got a lot bigger than what I had, so I'm going to zoom out using the mouse wheel, and then I'm going to push and hold on that mouse wheel to be able to pan and relocate that to the center. Now, before I finish the sketch and extrude, I want to actually work on rounding these corners. So if we come over here, you'll see that we actually have a fillet option in the sketch mode. We've only filleted actual 3D objects before, but we're just going to go and click on these 2 corners right here, okay, and it's going to ask for our radius, okay, so we are going to set that to 0.5 and hit enter, and it's going to automatically round that corner for us, which is super handy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to the other 3 corners. All right, so now that I have those rounded corners, I'm going to go ahead and finish sketch. And if it doesn't rotate to my isometric, I'm going to click my house. I'm going to extrude. That distance is 0.5. Okay, so now I have the basic shape of that base plate. So now looking at this, we're going to work on placing the 4 holes. Now you can see we have a center line here. So this tells us that this is exactly, so that these holes are 2 inches down from the top of the object. And so I'm going to actually just work on placing 4 points. So I'm going to go to create a new sketch. I'm going to put it on the front. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my point tool. And I'm just going to eyeball. That looks about halfway. So I'm going to place a point right there. I'm going to hit my escape key. And this first hole, okay, is 2 inches right here. And all it is just a countersunk hole. We can see that from the rendering, and it's actually the same as the one on the opposite end. So I'm going to go, it's a 0.25 diameter through. The countersink is 0.5 in diameter with 82 degrees. And that times 2 is how we know that that applies to this hole as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to dimension the distance of this. So I'm going to click this flat edge, okay? And it's already 2 inches. Good job, Miss Blanford. All right, the distance between this edge is 0.4375. So I'm going to go here and here. Now, because the hole on the opposite side is exactly the same, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place that as well. So I only have to do this hole, I only have to do these 2 holes one time. I can actually do 2 holes at once using the hole tool. That's going to be super handy. We're already at 2. Now I'm going to choose this, and that distance needs to be 0.438. Awesome. So we're going to hit finish sketch, and I am going to grab my hole tool, and I am going to select this point, and I'm going to select this point. It's going to allow me to make changes to both of these. So I said that was a countersink hole. Okay. If we look back here, it's going all the way through, and the diameter is 0.25. So we're going to change the distance to all. This bottom diameter is 0.25. And then our countersink diameter is 0.5. So we're going to come up here and just change this from 0.5 to 0.5. All right. So that's going to allow me to create both of those holes just like that. All right. So now I have 2 additional holes on this front face. Let's go ahead and work on this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and create another new sketch right on the front. Okay. I'm going to pan this so it's centered. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to create another point right here. I'm going to come back over and look, and the distance for this one is 1.5, and it's going to be that 2 inches again. So I'm going to go ahead, dimension that, and then I'm going to grab my dimension tool, and I am going to go from here to here. And that distance again can be found right here. It's 1.5. All right. Now I've done this model a few times, so it's easy for me to click and place them in those spots. If you're not exactly there, don't feel bad. That's what the dimension tool is for. Okay, now this is just a simple hole, and it's 0.3125, and it's through. And this hole is actually the same as the one in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place another point. And we're going to do that same thing again, where I am going to use the hole tool to create both of them at the same time once we get this point dimensioned. So this is 5.5 and 2. So I am going to lock in this dimension, and then I am going to grab my dimension tool, get my point. Okay, and then change this to 5.5. Okay, so now I have those 2 points placed. I'm going to hit finish. I'm going to click on my hole tool, and I'm again going to click on both of these so that way I can just do them both at the same time. I'm going to change the hole type to simple. Okay, and then it's 0.3125, and the distance is through. So I'm going to go to all, and then this is 0.3125. And I'm going to click OK, and it's going to make all 4 of those holes on the front of here. Okay, now we have to go around to the back, and we have to place these 4 holes on the opposite side. So I'm going to use my view cube, and I'm just going to flip around so that way I'm on the back side. And I can actually click on back, and it's going to center it for me. I'm going to start a new sketch, just like this. Okay, I'm going to recenter that so that way I can see it a little bit better. And now I have 4 holes that are exactly the same. Okay, so this is a UNC hole, all right? And then this is, our depth is 0.2875. That symbol is in our classroom. Go ahead and take a look at it so you know what type of hole it is, okay? And then we are going to go ahead and we are just going to place our 4 points to start. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place my points. I'm going to eyeball them kind of in the corners where I think they're going to go. We're going to dimension them into location in a moment. Okay, so that's going to go ahead. We're going to place those 4. All right, so I've placed my 4 points. So now we are going to go ahead and we are going to set this up. So this is a countersunk hole, okay? And it's 832 is the information. That actually refers to a screw size. So if I come over here and I do 832 UNC diameter, pops right up in Google. Okay, if we're looking at the number 832 UNC, the major diameter is 0.164 inches. So I'm going to come back over here, and we don't need that right now. What I actually need is my distances. So these distances, as you can see, they're in the corners, okay? And they are actually right. Actually, if we look, we actually don't have that measurement, which is silly. We should. I'm going to set them up so that way they're parallel to these center lines. You can see that line kind of lines up there. So we're going to dimension it to 0.4375 from both sides. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to click here. Oh, actually, what it did is it actually put it on the center points of those arcs. We're just going to leave it there. That looks great. So if you line that up there, great. If it did not go to the center point of those arcs, you can dimension them. That is fine. We're going to hit finish sketch now, and I'm going to go to that hole tool. Okay, remember if we click our house, it's going to rotate us all the way around so we can use our view cube to get to the back. These are all of the same. So I'm going to click on all 4 points. And remember, this is a number 832, so it's 0.164 in diameter. These are just simple holes. So we're going to click on this, 0.164. Fantastic. And if we look back at this, it is a depth of, they are countersunk holes, okay? So we're going to click on countersink. And sorry, I've got a lot of tabs open. And it is 0.2874, okay? and actually for our depth. Okay. So I'm going to come back here. Depth is right here. 0.2874. Fantastic. Okay. That countersink is really large. Let's go back and look at that. See if we have a different, actually, you know what? That is going to be right there. It's probably, so that's our thread count. That countersink looks a little large to me. So I'm just going to go ahead and adjust that. If we're at 0.1, let's go ahead and make this 0.2. See if we like how that looks. That looks more like what's in the drawing. We're going to hit OK. All right. So it's a tiny countersink, but the base plate is done.